The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
Started to do the podcast today, realized I had two sets of speakers on, and I was hearing myself, and I was hearing Neil, and it was in a round. It was really exciting. It was like digital surround sound in the tiny corner of my bedroom where you guys all get to listen to me record a podcast. Welcome to Fantasy NBA Today. Dan Besbris, Neil Rochlani. I am drinking a brew. I thought I could hide it for longer than 25 seconds, but I burped 30 seconds into a podcast. I'm all class, Neil. Save me. Please bail the water out of this boat.
Dan, I just follow you. So I'm going to just pop open some tequila here pretty soon.
Oh, well, at least you won't be burping as much. If Neil disappears, it's because he's actually regurgitating on air. What's the tequila of choice, Neil? You're getting wild tonight.
That was just a joke, actually. I don't just drink tequila. I was just trying to come up with something clever.
Are you a beer man at all?
I actually drink very rarely. I'm not a drinker. So I will not be having any alcoholic beverages.
Yeah.
But,
sometimes it's nice to have just one beer, just to melt the day away.
I know what you mean. Sometimes it is nice. Depends on the day. I could have gone. Perhaps I had a interesting Mother's Day, so maybe I could have had one last night.
Oh my God!
But anyway,
do you want to tell stories, or would you rather keep that one locked up tight?
I can elaborate a little bit.
All right, don't get yourself in trouble. Just hit me. Tell me if I need to hit the red alert button. I'll just start going woo woo, and I'll bail out.
No, it's fine. It's just I actually went to visit my mom for Mother's Day. She lives out of state, so it was like a flight, and it was just I went on Friday and I came back today or Monday.
Yeah, well, welcome behind the curtain once again here at Fantasy NBA Today.
Exactly, and sometimes just too much time with my mom. After a while, tension tends to build. So I should plan, if I'm going to do a Mother's Day thing, I should probably show up the night before, because by day 3, I'm a little bit salty.
I don't know if you guys know this, but Neil is 18 years old right now. This is the same joke that I make with Adrian. But listen, okay, jokes aside, I know exactly what you're talking about, because there was, and I got to go back a while, but there was a stretch somewhere in there. I moved. There was a period of time where over 9 years I moved 11 times, and it had to do with. I mean, there was undergrad and there was a bunch of different houses there, and then my wife was in med school, so I moved across the country and I worked for a minor league baseball team, and they give you like a $250 stipend to go try to find an apartment. So you're grasping at straws to a certain point. And I think somewhere in the middle of all that, I had to go live at home for 3 weeks, and I wanted to lose my bleeping mind. And that was some 15, 16 years ago or whatever it was now. So I can't even imagine. Anyway, moving right along. You're okay.
Happy Mother's Day, though, Dan, to your wife.
Yes, happy Mother's Day to all the mamas. All the mamas. It sounds, Neil, like you could actually use that glass of tequila, that highball.
Yeah.
All right, well, Neil's okay.
It might have gone better. Yeah, let's just say that.
Yeah.
More mellow. Yeah.
So it's Monday night. We're recording the pod the night before because there aren't any games. I mean, we do it anyway, but this time we actually don't have to set ourselves up with depending on what happens here over the next 25 minutes, because nothing's going to happen over the next 25 minutes. The games begin, the conference finals begin on Tuesday night, and as promised on yesterday's podcast, Neil and I are going to talk some sports wagering on this stuff. We're also going to get into the Phoenix Suns, the next team on our 6-week, 5 days a week post-mortem mega recap of every team in the NBA that runs in conjunction with written pieces over at Hoopball's main page, hoop-ball.com. There'll be a Suns profile out first thing on Tuesday morning. We'll have the pod out right around the same time. I think it's pretty cool, actually, that we managed to finally get this thing organized. Panda and myself were trying to make sure that this thing works, but it, of course, comes down to all of the writers, all of you guys, Neil, the other pod guys, to bring it all together. And so we look organized. The question is now, can we pull it off? Before we get into any of that, I do want to thank, of course, Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company at HI Kona Coffee on Twitter, HawaiianIsles.com. They're powering the Hoop Ball engine. I don't know if you heard this, Neil, but Mike Apotria is now 40% Hawaiian Isles coffee.
Yeah.
He's
Well, considering all the work he does, my God, that guy is just a machine. And
I don't know. Oh, it's crazy.
You know what I love about Micah Patrias? Every time I listen to him on your podcast, I learn something. Which is just fantastic.
He is wise beyond his years. So no jokes now. I know I said Neil is 18 years old. Neil's not 18 years old. Mike is in his late 20s, but he's had the life experience and the knowledge base of someone about twice his age, which is very cool. He's also what I think I've said to him before. He's what we in the tribesmen we call a mensch. He's just a good dude, works his tail off, but he's also 40% Hawaiian Isles Kona coffee. So if you see his eyes really wide one day, it's because the balance tipped and he went over 50%. He's a massive fan. I know Brew is as well. So big thank you to our guys over at Hawaiian Isles. Go check them out. Go get yourself some coffee. Do it on Amazon if you want it fast. You can get it prime. You can get it one day, I think, if you spend $35 on coffee or anything else in addition to the various roasts. And that's about as much as I know about coffee. So I'm a man who likes to smell it. It's like an old Eddie Murphy joke. So, Neil, we got the conference finals kicking off here. They start tonight, effectively. This podcast coming out on Tuesday. Raptors, Bucks, Blazers, Warriors. It's dealer's choice, Neil. Where do you want to start, East or West?
Let's go East. Much more interesting, I guess, between the two. Don't you think?
I do, actually. I do.
Yeah, I know you talked this morning. I was listening to you talked yesterday.
It's
Monday.
Fine. They know. They know, man. It's over. The mystery's gone. Nobody wonders when we're recording this thing anymore. Yes, on yesterday's pod I did. But I wanted to save a lot of it to discuss with you. I put the numbers out there.
No. Let me interrupt you really quickly because I wanted to get in. Let me finish that thought. You talked about Milwaukee still being underrated, right? Is that correct? With this line, do you think it's still good value on Milwaukee? Because I think I'm going Toronto. I think they might win one of the two games in Milwaukee.
I think this line's actually pretty fair, which is the first time I've said that. I mean, the Bucks were obviously way overpriced against the Detroit Pistons. They were underrated against the Celtics, and now I think it's finally settled to some degree. My hope certainly was that somehow, and I think it's the Kawhi shot, the Raptors have gotten significantly more coverage to this point than the Bucks because I think Milwaukee's just been so systematically destroying teams that it's just like, oh, this isn't very interesting. And Kawhi Leonard has the buzzer beater, and Joel Embiid with the tears and everything around that Sixers. Is Ben Simmons going to get traded? Is Jimmy Butler coming back? Is Tobias Harris coming back? There's so much around that series that it ended up, I thought, kind of clouding things. But this feels relatively fair, although in my mind, I still think the Bucks win this series. So then I sort of pivot to, would I be willing to pay this number? And the answer is inconclusive, which is the lamest ending to a podcast segment ever. But that's where I'm sitting on this one. I think it comes down to sort of how we think the series plays out. And we've done that before, right?
Yeah, exactly. Do you think Toronto can steal one or two? Or do you think Milwaukee will get game one and then do you buy them beforehand? Because, like I said, I think Toronto could win game one or two. I think the way Milwaukee manhandled Boston, the way Toronto barely hung on to beat Philly, I think might be affecting this line a bit. I mean, I'm seeing only 30% chance for Toronto to win with this line, and I think it might be a little bit higher than that. So
yeah, remember was that last week or 2 weeks ago where you called yourself stupid because you didn't immediately know the percentage that lined up with the money line? Was that last week?
I call myself stupid every day, but yeah, I think on the show it was last week or 2 weeks ago. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Why do you do that? You're clearly the smarter person on this podcast. So don't. If you're stupid, then I'm a total wreck. So the Raptors I see them at plus 230, Bucks minus 275. Are you seeing roughly those same numbers?
Yeah, exactly. I'm seeing 235 minus 285. Yeah.
So, my thought on this one is I think the Bucks win game one. They're rested and getting healthy. The Raptors, to me, aren't really. Didn't Kyle Lowry have like a finger pop out in that last ball game or something? I forget exactly what happened in this thing. There's just so many pieces that I struggle with this thing. So Neil, feel free to fill in some of the color on this drawing. Is like when I see an underdog, my first move usually is to try to talk myself into the underdog, and I'm really struggling to do it. I think
is it because Toronto was so Kawhi dependent, or is it something that changed in the last two series? I mean, the last round between these two teams. That
Toronto
make you, or did you think going in Milwaukee was a better team? Like, because I thought this was pretty much like before the playoffs started. I had a hard time picking who would come out of the East between Toronto and Milwaukee.
I had Milwaukee by a decent amount. I actually thought that there was. I actually had Philly beating Toronto in one of my brackets. I mean, once the series got going and Joel Embiid was either hurt or sick or something, then that shifted a little bit. But at full strength, I thought the Sixers were going to win that series, and they damn well almost did. I mean, that game probably should have gone to overtime on Sunday, if not for the friendliest bounce in the history of the playoffs. So, yeah, my thought was that the 2-3 was closer than the 1-2. Milwaukee always, in my mind, was kind of a cut above the other teams in the East. And so I kept thinking, like, can we get a damn matchup here where Milwaukee is a good enough price to take? And it sort of was with Boston, but then they lost that first game and I panicked, which I try not to do that, but it was such a decisive loss that I thought, oh my God, I biffed it. That's all wrong. They're not good. And then they came back and they trounced him 4 games in a row. And so now it's like, oh, no, never mind. They were good. You were right the first time, Dan. You need to stick to your guns a little bit more. Have a little conviction in what you're talking about. So now with this one, we've seen the Bucks steamroll some teams, like you said. We've seen the Raptors struggle a little bit. I still think Milwaukee is the better team. But the more I talk about it, the more I think I'd probably rather this be closer to like a minus 200 as opposed to 285. But I also think that this might be the cheapest price you get on the Bucks. I don't know that Toronto ever leads this series, and I think the only other time we might see it tied would be 2-2. That's where I'm sitting in my mind. But maybe I might be giving Milwaukee too much credit.
Yeah, it's hard to bet against them right now. They've been by far the best team in the East in the playoffs. I'm still just a believer in Toronto's overall talent and depth. I know it really didn't show up against Philadelphia, and I don't know if that was a matchup issue and the talent that Philly has, or it's just they're not as good as I thought they were. But during the regular season, I thought they were very comparable to Milwaukee. And, it comes down to who has the best player, and I think right now it's pretty much even between Toronto and Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to make an argument that Giannis is much better than Kawhi,
No, he's probably not. I mean, but then you kind of go to who has the second best player, and it's probably either Middleton or Bledsoe over Kyle Lowry, right?
Yeah, probably. But you're probably right. I like Gasol still a lot. I know he hasn't really shown much, and I don't know how he's going to match up against that team. But
I don't think he's going to play. I don't think he's going to play all that much. I think you're going to see his minutes.
I think you're probably right. I think it's Ibaka going to get more time. But I have to figure out they find a way to utilize him better in this series than they did in the last series. I'm just a believer in Nurse doing something different. We'll see.
The more I watched that last series, Neil, the more I thought that that Masai Ujiri made that midseason trade specifically for a matchup with Philadelphia. That's what it looked like to me. That they were like, we're going to go get Marc Gasol because he's the one guy in the NBA that can defend Joel Embiid. That's what it looked like.
You really think so? They thought they were going to end up with a 2-3 matchup and definitely play Philly, and it was all just about that?
I don't know. It felt like it, though, right? He was basically like a defensive matchup in that series. He didn't do a whole lot else. He didn't shoot.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm wondering if they have something planned for him to do differently against Milwaukee in a way that throws a wrench into Milwaukee's offensive system.
That's why I think you see Ibaka, right? Because the whole point with Milwaukee is take Brook Lopez, stick him out on the perimeter, give Giannis the lane. So, I mean, let's look at it from this perspective. The best defensive job anyone's done on Giannis that we've seen recently, at least, and I didn't go through every matchup during the regular season, was Al Horford sort of stepping back, and, Horford has excellent mobility for a big man. So he's able to kind of do both things. That's why he gets stuck on a lot of those types of matchups. Has anyone and that didn't work, by the way. When all was said and done, he was just like, I'm going to blow past all of you guys anyway. Who is the guy on Toronto? Are they going to put Kawhi on Giannis for the game? That doesn't seem like a very good move. That's how you end up taking Kawhi out of the ball game. Like, what if he gets into foul trouble? Who's going to take 39 shots when he's off the floor? I don't know that is it Ibaka? Because he'll blow right by him. Serge is not as fast as he used to be. If it's Kawhi, he's, I would argue, stronger, and then you're putting your best offensive player into defensive mode, which means someone else is going to have to do the heavy lifting at the other end. I don't like the matchup for Toronto very much, and I think they lost 3 out of 4 in the regular season, right? Did Milwaukee win the season series?
I'm just looking it up right now. I'm looking at one game January 5th where Toronto won 116-123 in Milwaukee. I'm not sure what the season series was.
Oh,
I'm trying to see if Giannis did play 39 minutes, scored 43 points. But Van Fleet started for Lowry that game. Interesting.
I'll find it. Fear not.
I'm sorry.
I'll dig it up.
I'm not very good with the technology.
Okay, so what do you think? You think Toronto? Do you think Toronto wins Game 1 because historically they're horrible in Game 1s, or do you think they win Game 2?
I think they win Game 2.
Interesting.
If they win either of them, I think it's Game 2. I think they're too tired to win Game 1.
Okay, so here's the breakdown, by the way. Milwaukee-Toronto happened on October 29th, a game you can probably throw out. Milwaukee won that one, 124-109. The next matchup was December 9th. Milwaukee won that one in Toronto, 104-99. They came back a month later. This is the one you were looking at. Milwaukee lost that ball game by 7 at home, and then they went up and won in Toronto again at the end of January, 105-92. So they won 3 out of the 4 ball games. They won both games in Toronto, oddly enough. Man, I think Milwaukee wins this series in 5. I know I'm getting caught up in the hoopla here, but they're a machine, man. And I don't know that from a pricing standpoint, I would say they're fully underrated, but to me, just from a schematic standpoint, especially on the defensive end, I don't think people are giving Milwaukee the credit that they've earned in how they've stopped teams. And to me, the road record is usually what shows that. Like, isn't it? You know, this is like simplistic analysis, but teams that can defend are teams that win on the road. And Milwaukee was 27-14 on the road. You know, the only other team that had a record that good on the road was the Warriors. Of course, the Raptors, 26-15 on the road. This should be interesting. You're right. However, I'm still not impressed by what I've seen from Toronto. That's what it comes down to for me. I've been impressed with the Bucks. I think they win this series. But are you getting in on the Raptors now, or are you getting in after potentially Game 2?
I think I'm getting in after Game 2. No, I'm sorry. I would have to get in at that point. I'd probably have to
sorry. After Game 1. Yeah, excuse me.
Yeah.
Now, what happens if
I'll see what the line is. Yes, if they go up to like plus 350 or something, after Game 1, then maybe I'd get on them. Yeah.
Would you ever think about, because do you think Toronto can win the series if this is tied 1-1 after 2 games? Would you just ride that bet out, or would you be looking to try to middle it?
I would look to try to middle it. Hopefully, Toronto will take one of the Game 3 or Game 4.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate here. Let me put you in the hot seat a little bit. Would you consider if Milwaukee wins Game 1, and that's on Wednesday, I believe, so that one's not for another day and a half here. But let's say Milwaukee wins Game 1, and in your mind, you're saying, okay, I'm going to take Toronto because I really think they're going to win Game 2, but it also gives you a little bit of wiggle room because if they go down 2-0, then maybe they win the 3rd game and it sort of levels off a little bit. Would you ever instead consider just betting Toronto on the money line in Game 2 just for 1 game?
Probably not.
Okay.
Yeah, probably not. Just because it's more. No, because I'm not convinced they're going to win. It's more like taking a chance on them trying to perhaps win a game or 2, and then the line shifting in my favor rather than knowing which game it's going to be.
Okay, so I think I'm following you now. Basically, what you're saying is by getting in on the series, you're saying I think that this team is going to win 1 or 2 games out of the next 4, basically, as opposed to if you were to take a 1-game money line, you're saying I think they're going to win tonight. So it gives you a little bit more margin for error. Right.
But obviously, you're capping your upside. Because if you took the money line, you could obviously do a lot better. And you were right.
Maybe. Maybe not. I mean, depends on how it plays out. What about Blazers-Warriors? The more I look at this one, the more I'm trying to talk myself into Golden State having a letdown game. But I also think they're going to end up just destroying Portland. And I don't think it's going to take more than 5 games. What do you think? 4-1? Is that how this series ends? I think I'm sitting on 4-1.
I'm sitting on a sweep.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. I like it. So I got balls.
Well, what do we know about Durant? Is Durant going to come back for the road games?
I doubt it. I don't think he plays. I think if they go up, I think if they go
come back for the road games, then maybe they lose one. Yeah, but I think if Durant's playing the road games, I think they win all 4.
I think I'm going to say something stupid, and we'll just see how it goes. I think the Blazers win tonight, Tuesday night. I think they win tonight, and I think it's the only game they win the rest of the season. I think the Warriors. Yeah.
Oh my! I want to find the money line then on this. Should I? I'm a big believer in you. I might have to mortgage my house and put it all on Portland.
Yeah, might as well. You'll end up with 4. Congratulations, Neil. You're the proud owner of 4 houses now. It is plus 375 on the money line tonight. So it's actually, you're not quite 4 houses. You turned your one house into 3 3/4 houses. You're going to have one guest house that I'll stay in when I visit. Your gaming room. That'll be the game house.
Wow.
I don't know.
So you really think so? You don't think they're exhausted?
Oh, they're completely exhausted. But I also think that the Warriors are. Let's see. This is a family-friendly show. I was gonna make a. Never mind. I can't even reference it without it getting dirty very quickly. I just think the Warriors are goofing off. You know what I was gonna listen. You know what I was gonna say when my second choice was goofing off, right? You can figure what word was there instead of goofing. I think that they're goofing off a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they have enough competitors on that team to I could see maybe a soft first half or something, but I think they're just too competitive.
What about a Blazers cover?
Oh, that I can see. Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe we can settle on that one. I think they're catching 8 points in this ball game. That's
But I still would it's 7.5 now what I'm seeing. I still wouldn't do it because the variance is so high. I mean, I think Golden State could just crush them in every game.
Yeah, there's something about this series. I do think they will. I mean, I'm not going to back off on that. I think the Warriors absolutely demolish them. I think it takes 5 games, and for some reason it feels like tonight. And they might prove me wrong. This is the playoffs, and I'm sure everybody's focus is better. But there's something about getting past Houston, right? And it's not like LeBron is waiting in the next round for them. It's the Blazers. It's like, who's going to tip it at center court to start the game? Enes Kanter? Is that the guy that's going to get the engines going? I know there's Dame on that side, but this isn't Harden. This isn't the Rockets. It's not LeBron. It's none of the Warriors' nemeses, and they do this sometimes. They do this where they did it against the Clippers. Listen, I like the Clippers, but let's be honest. They won as many games in that series as the Rockets, but I think we can all agree the Rockets are a better team than the Clippers, right?
Yeah, I mean, don't you think so? You don't think they've woken up yet? You think they're still like the?
I think it's the sandwich.
They're still playing with fire every game. Yeah, I don't know. I guess under Kerr they've done this a lot, so maybe you're right. There is a history of him coaching this team where they don't, from series to series, they can reset back to that goofing off mode.
Yeah, they might prove me wrong. Listen, they very well might. They're obviously the far better team, but I think that. I think Portland comes out firing. I don't think Dame has another game as awful as the last one. I mean, CJ probably won't have one as good as the last one. I don't think that there's an Oakland thing. I know that there's a Dame coming back home type of stuff. That's a regular season angle. That's not really a playoff angle. And we've seen it before with the Warriors. They play up or down to their competition. When you've been this good for this long, there just isn't that night-to-night motivating factor, especially when you're the runaway favorite in a series. So I don't listen. I'm taking a chance here. Obviously, it's a very big chance based on the fact that I'm calling something a plus 400 chance. But rather than go the series, I think this is the one time you might have some opportunity with Portland coming in. Hard-fought series. No one's expecting much or of anything from them. Warriors are thinking, all right, cool. We got by the Rockets. Now we just got to. Next challenge is going to be the Bucks or the Raptors. Let's deal with that when we get there. And you look past the team, they might catch you one time. But listen, if I get this one wrong, what do I have to lose, Neil? I just called a huge underdog winning. If I'm wrong, I'm just like, yeah, well, you know what? They lost. They were the underdog.
Yeah.
This is it's an old sports betting tactic. Well, it's like if you miss on a big favorite, you look like a real idiot. If you miss on a big underdog, you just whatever. I'm just ballsy, man.
I was going to say, so I did make a bet. I want to walk it through with you really quickly if I can.
Yeah, walk it.
If I know it's a pretty, it's not a very insightful bet. I did parlay the money line on both home teams for game one.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's
but mainly because I think obviously the home teams are better teams, and two, I think the road teams are just gassed, like completely exhausted. I don't see how they can just keep up with them physically.
Yeah, the only edge, I guess, is in that Eastern Conference one. They have an extra day off, right? They both played on Sunday, so they got 2 days off.
Yeah, but still, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
what odds did you get on those two combined?
Not great. Minus 125, I think.
Not great. Not great is the reply on that one.
Yeah, not great. But it's just I just don't see them losing the first game. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
We'll find out later tonight if my insane pick is worth a penny. Let's talk Phoenix Suns here for about 10 minutes before we wrap this bad boy up.
Yes, I forgot about that.
It's Suns Day. Yeah, Suns post-mortem. And, they might be short of Josh Jackson next year. I have the rumor coming out on Monday that they're going to be looking to trade Josh Jackson, not because he sucks at basketball, but because he got arrested in New York, so that was cool. Josh Jackson arrested trying to sneak into a backstage at a concert a number of times and then running away from police. Josh, you have hair that's 9 inches tall and you're like 6'8". You're gonna stick out if you're running away from law enforcement. I never got the impression that he was the most heady basketball player, but this certainly, I think, seals the deal on that one. Everybody knows my feelings on Josh Jackson in terms of fantasy potential. He's all points leaguey, bad percentages and high turnovers and so forth, and now he might not be on the team. But what about some of these other guys, Neil? The Devin Bookers of the world, the DeAndre Aytons of the world. Would it surprise you or anybody to know that DeAndre Ayton finished as a higher ranked guy in 9-cat than Devin Booker? Now 8-cat, obviously that flip flops, but they had some fantasy guys. TJ Warren was having a career year before I don't know exactly what happened to him. They just pulled the plug on him 43 games in, and he wants out. This is a hard team to analyze on a post-mortem basis because it seems like some of these guys are going to be gone.
Yeah, exactly. And who knows who they bring in, and they have a new coach, and so perhaps a whole new system. I was looking at their post-mortem, looking at their stats from last year. I am looking more at 8-cat, so I might have different ranks than you.
That works. We can do both.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously the rising stars, Mikal Bridges, DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker I stay away from. One with, I don't want to say injury history, but just I worry about injuries. And then two, he's so points dependent. And if they find another scorer they bring in addition to Ayton, that could go down a bit. So I think he gets overdrafted because points tend to get overvalued. So I will stay away from him next season. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, not too many contracts coming off the book for this team.
They're not. I thought they had like 40-some million in space. Am I wrong about that?
It's something. They were at 108 or 109 this year, and it's at 81 right now. And that I think is before. I'll double check on this. I think it's before Kelly Oubre's $4.5 million qualifying offer, which I assume they'll probably offer him. The Tyson Chandler contract finally goes away. I think they were paying Austin Rivers, Daryl Arthur, Wayne Ellington, Dragan Bender. Yeah, that's a rough one. Rashawn Holmes is off the books, so we can keep an eye on that.
He may not come back either, right? We don't know where he's going to end up.
Someone should give him a decent amount of money to go play some basketball. That's what should happen. What will it? I don't know. Josh Jackson is making $7 million this coming year. Now they're going to try to trade that. We'll see if that works. Tyler Johnson likely will exercise his player option for $19 million because he ain't getting that on the open market right now. TJ Warren is making $11 million next year. Ayton, $9.5 million. Mikal Bridges, $4 million this coming year. That's a pretty good deal. Devin Booker, $27 million. His contract kicks in full bore for this coming season. Kelly Oubre will likely make around $4 to $5 million. And then they've got Ilya Kobo, DeAnthony Melton. Jimmer, I believe, I think they have a team option for next year, and that's basically it. They've got all these little goofer contracts that are coming off the books, not making much of a dent. Okay, so let's just start at the top here. The most expensive player on the team is Devin Booker. He finished, you have the 8-cat ranks in front of you. 9-cat, he finished number 43 by averages and number 70 by totals. How did he fare in 8-cat?
8-cat, he finished 20th by averages, and I don't know by totals.
Yeah, that's fine. He doesn't play a whole season.
Yes, that's the problem.
Will he, if they're trying to make the playoffs? Is that a situation where...
Do you see that happening, though, anytime soon?
No, not now that they're going to realign the leagues and move Phoenix into the Eastern Conference.
I was going to say, they're not going to even scratch the playoff. He's going to be shut down again, right? And sometime in March or April next year.
Probably.
Yeah, that's what really scares me for these head-to-head leagues I'm starting to figure out. Dan, head-to-head, really matters end-of-year stuff.
It really, really does. And
really does.
It really does.
You can't just win first place and be like, I'm the king of the world anymore. You have to actually win playoff games.
No, stupid head-to-head. Oh, but here's the flip side, though, is that all of his teammates got shut down at the end of the year also. And so there was like a 4-game window, remember, where he was literally the only man playing. He was taking on teams of 5 by himself. He was like, Devin, I'm going to pass it to you. And he threw a bounce pass, and then he ran after it, and he chased it, and he caught it. There was no one else on the floor, and he scored, 59, 50, 48 points 3 games in a row. So he won a playoff week. And then they shut him down. So he won you a week and then he lost you a week, which is more important, I guess. I'm with you on this one. I don't like Devin Booker as a pick either. He's always going to go too early because he scores so many points. So no, thank you. What about DeAndre Ayton? He feels like kind of a nice, safe center. He's okay. He's like a good enough foul shooter. Averaged a steal and a block, 16 and 10. I don't know if that goes way up. I don't really project massive leaps for him unless he gets to take more than 12 shots a game, I guess. Maybe that's the one way he improves is scoring. I feel like settling inside that top 40 in 9-cat is pretty reasonable. Where's he in 8-cat?
Finished 41 averages. Yeah, so very similar. He plays just, a little under 31 minutes. So I think maybe his minutes, if they go up a little bit, maybe he does get a slightly more on the rebounds and the blocks, and that could catapult him a little bit higher, but I'm worried about his value. Obviously, I think he's going to hold steady. I just don't know I'll be able to draft him at 40 next year.
Yeah, I probably would if he floated to me around that spot. He feels pretty safe. I like centers that aren't terrible at the free throw line, even if he's not that great at blocking shots. But you're right, maybe his 31 minutes go up to 33, and just a little bump like that would be enough to get him from 35 to, 31 in 9-cat. So there's a little bit of value there. TJ Warren, do we bother breaking him down? He only played half the season, and he hates the Phoenix Suns. I'm assuming he'll be somewhere else. He was starting to show a pretty good fantasy stat set, but he's going to need a lot of freedom wherever he goes. So I feel like, I don't know. I get the feeling like maybe he actually balances out, where the upside of his growing fantasy game gets balanced out by the fact that he hasn't really been healthy, and people are probably going to draft him assuming he's going to be hurt.
Yeah, I think he's going to be gone, unfortunately, right? So he won't be – who knows if he's going to be starting elsewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one to break down. He was having a nice season. He was shooting 49%, 81 at the foul line, 18-4 with 1.2 steals, 0.7 blocks. It was progress. Kelly Oubre.
I will say if he goes somewhere else, I'm probably avoiding him.
Yeah, it depends. It'll have to be a really obvious, like, you're the starting small forward or power forward on this team, and you're going to play 32 minutes. If there's any competition at all, I will freak out. Kelly Oubre was a massive steal for this team down the stretch. He ended up as the number 87 guy in 9-cat, but he was far better than that, finishing up the year with Phoenix. If they really do trade Josh Jackson, it just feels like that's even more opportunity for Oubre, right? Like, he feels like a pretty good later round pick. I don't think he's going to get drafted that early this coming year, will he? People don't know that name that well.
No, he's my favorite guy on the Suns for value for next year, I think. Just trying to read the tea leaves on where guys will be ranked, and like you say, name recognition and sort of like the buzzworthiness. I don't think he'll have a lot of buzz, hopefully. He's someone I would take in no man's land pretty quickly.
Yeah. Totally agree. I think my hope is that you can like kind of let him mellow a little bit in no man's land. You don't even have to get him right out of the chute. But he was steals, blocks, and threes. That's the good stuff right there. And in that wide open offense in Phoenix, it looked even better. So then we use that as a segue to the next guy, which is Mikal Bridges, who's kind of a similar stat set dude, scores a lot less, doesn't bother to shoot the ball at all. Big time steals guy. Much better, obviously, in 9-cat than 8-cat because he doesn't turn the ball over. But presumably, he's also looking at a nice number of minutes next year. I feel like he's another later no man's land guy that could end up filling a nice role on a fantasy team. Although you're more of an 8-cat guy, so is he sort of off your board?
He's off my board. Yeah, this last 2 months he played, I believe, close to 35 or more minutes a game, and he still didn't have top 130 value in 8-cat.
Yeah,
so,
what was he, like 0.8 turnovers a game?
Yeah, no, that's really where he gets a lot of his value. And so I'm not looking at him again unless something, unless he's out there in preseason taking, 15 shots a game or something.
Yeah, that's not happening. Not on that team. Okay, so then the last one that you have to mention is Rashawn Holmes. Well, actually, no, let's do Tyler Johnson first. He had a brief stretch where he was actually fantasy relevant, and then he got hurt and didn't finish out the year. His last game was on March 13th. He actually looked okay for like the 2 or 3 weeks before that. Similar thing, he wasn't taking a ton of shots, but some threes, points, assists. I think he's a guy I might target in the very last round of a fantasy draft.
Yeah, this one's hard for me too because he doesn't do enough for the point guard positions. The assists that aren't there, and the steals aren't great, and the threes aren't there. So I probably will stay away from him. I mean, his threes are decent, but yeah, if I do draft him, it'll be like a last round thing, or maybe if I just need to round out my team with him. But I probably will avoid him next year.
My hope is that's
like a 14-team league, then maybe I would get him.
I'm still hoping that they just finally accept the fact that Devin Booker is a shooting guard and let somebody else do some point guardy stuff. But I'm guessing Tyler Johnson's coming back. They traded for him, and they'll probably play him. So that's why I would say last round. I think he deserves a roster spot just to see how the first couple weeks of the season go. But it could be a mess, and then you just drop him. That's fine. Easy enough. Finally, Rashawn Holmes. This is obviously a hoop ball favorite. Top 150 in 9-cat in only 17 minutes a game. All he needs is basically like 20 to 22 minutes, and he's a top 100 guy in 9-cat. He's a different beast than 8-cat, obviously, because he doesn't turn the ball over, but good percentages for a big man. Steals, blocks are always there for him, and do kind of run parallel. When he gets more minutes, he gets more steals, blocks. It doesn't taper off quite as much. Is anybody going to be smart enough, Neil, to give this dude a couple $1 million to go play 25 minutes a night? I still get the feeling that teams just don't want him to play that much, and I can't figure out exactly why.
Yeah, I don't know. No one has so far, and I don't know why it is either. He seems to have a positive impact when he's on the court, and I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But, yeah, he's one of these guys that I wouldn't say he's burned me, but my expectations have been too high for him that I'm just not going to look at him until he kind of blows up at this point.
Yeah, and he's not. I feel like he's not really a guy to target an 8-cat, right? He sort of falls off the map because he's averaging less than a turnover a game.
Oh yeah, unless he's again, yeah, he'd have to be getting 20 plus minutes before I even start looking at him. So,
all right, any other thoughts on Phoenix before we put a bow on this bad boy?
I have a question for you. Okay. Do you think Okobo has a chance of having fantasy value next year?
Nope.
Okay.
I mean, all these guys, Tyler Johnson, DeAnthony Melton, Ilya Kobo, these guys are all fighting for that point guard spot, and they went out and they traded for Tyler Johnson. I don't think there's enough opportunity for the other young guys. And Melton, we saw his steals numbers were crazy good, but if these other guys are actually playing, and they often do for, the first 3 months of the year, then I don't know how those guys see enough court time to actually make a difference. I like the fact, Neil, that Phoenix does have some of these kind of weirdos that were off and on injured, with interesting fantasy stat sets that people probably didn't pay much attention to because they were on such a bad team and getting overshadowed by Booker and Ayton. I really think this is a team where, doing these post-mortems on awful basketball teams is kind of fun because this is where you can seek out these low hype guys that are going to be really nice, sort of old man squatty sort of dudes to draft in the last 3 or 4 rounds. I mean, these could be great players to round out your roster.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because obviously no one's paying attention to the Suns nationally, and these names aren't big at all. So, yes, I think a lot of these guys not a lot. I think a couple of these guys could be very good values. Like, I would say not for sure, but Oubre I'm expecting. And then, like you said, maybe Tyler Johnson, and then Ayton, perhaps if he falls to the fourth round. So.
Put them on the list, guys. As we go through these postmortems, just put some of these names on the list. What we talked about yesterday with New York, not many. Not many guys on the list from that basketball team. But a few here with Phoenix, certainly. Some guys just to kind of in case they turn. I think I mentioned Mario Hezonja yesterday as a guy. What if he ends up in a place where someone gives him 30 minutes a game? And you could say the same thing about a guy like an Oubre, who we know where he's going to be. Where does TJ Warren end up? And so on and so forth. This is Fantasy NBA Today, a Hoop Ball and Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee presentation. He's Neil Rochlani. At Ball with Neil. I never did our Twitter handles at the beginning of the show. I'm at Dan Besbris. But whatever. It's the off season. Anybody that's listening now was already listening before. Back tomorrow with Brandon Marcus. We will continue our look at the post-mortems. It'll be the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers. That's what's coming up. Thursday, Neil, are you with Ethan again this week?
I guess so. I mean, what's up with you on Mondays? I mean, poor Ethan's just like he had one show and you just canceled him.
Yeah, I know. I've been not good. Mother's Day was a difficult one to try to find a time to record a podcast. So Neil and Ethan, that'll be Bulls on Thursday. Adrian and Coach, they got the Hawks on Friday. Neil, a pleasure as always, my good man. Enjoy your tequila.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your cold beverage.
Yeah, it is ice cold. Have a wonderful Tuesday, everybody. Enjoy the start of the conference finals. We will talk to you tomorrow.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.